Welcome to Mission 3, which is already the penultimate mission. And this is where, for most people, excluding the motorcycle chase, that the game probably gets a bit difficult. I believe I already said previously that all of the enemies are the same. And this is true, all the enemies are practically palette swaps of one another. But although their attacks and attack patterns do not change any, the enemies do get more aggressive throughout the game. And this is the first point at which it becomes really noticeable. Now let's talk about some meta stuff in regards to the game's coding. You may have noticed that there can be only 3 enemies on the screen at a time, presumably because of the Master System's limitations. And you may have also noticed that there are only 2 types of normal enemies. There are enemies that will hit you with their fists and legs, and there are enemies with weapons. The game will only put 1 enemy with a weapon on the screen at a time. When the game spawns new enemies, it always spawns an enemy of the same type that you just defeated. But there's also a limited spawn rate. So there aren't a certain number of weapon enemies in reserve, there's just a certain number of untaken enemy spaces in reserve. So if you wait and take out the enemy with the weapon at the last second, then you will only have to fight that single weapon enemy during the battle. Out there in the alley, we had a choice of 2 doors we could have gone into. There was this door, which takes us to the boss, and the other door, which takes us to the bar. Inside the bar, there wasn't a boss, there was just a ton more normal enemies. And I do mean a ton more. I find that fighting all the extra enemies in the bar is way harder than just taking on this boss. Now, she's very similar to the second boss fight, but I find it's more difficult to knock her over with your charge attack. So what I like to do is run at her, jump over her, and then hit her from behind. And don't stand on top of her for too long after you hit her, because she'll push you off. Just move up or down to get out of that. The timing for jumping over her is actually fairly lenient, but you still want to make sure that you give yourself enough space to pull it off.